Hi, I'm Rich, this is Rocket, and this is Triple Dog Workshop. People often ask me where Triple Dog Workshop came from, and in part one you met Bertie the Basset. Now, to introduce the Triple Dogs, this is the second part of a three-part series of projects where I'm making a longboard dedicated to each of the three dogs. In part one, I made Bertie this awesome longboard using plywood and pallet wood. If you've yet to see part one, go check it out. I'll leave a link in the description. Today it's time to meet this legend. He's the second of the three dogs that we've got here, Rocket the Black Labrador. He's a purebred, and like all labs, completely and utterly ruled by his stomach. So just as a reminder, I don't skate and never have done, but longboards are cool and they come in all different shapes and sizes, which is ideal for me because I can get a different design for each dog. Now, before Bertie's, I'd never made a longboard before, but the whole idea is to make them all a little different. So on this one, I'm going to be using these hardwood scraps that I picked up recently from Taunton Timber. But just like Bertie's, we're playing it fast and loose with the design on this board. So first up, I'm going to cut these scraps into strips and then glue them all together. So now the glue is set, I'm going to send it through my new to me, eBay thicknesser to get it all nice and flat. So to save my blades a bit, I'm going to knock off the excess glue before putting it through the planer. Because there's a slight bow in this board, I'm going to glue it to a piece of chipboard which I know is flat and then send it through the planer. So in the first instance, I wanted to make this board only from hardwood, but that would have been a bit pricey. And these offcuts I've picked up are pretty good, albeit a bit thin. So now with it being all flat, I'm going to glue it to this piece of plywood. So once again, I found a suitable design online and printed off a template. I then drew round it and was able to cut out my longboard shape. Once cut, I'm able to flush trim the sides, soften the edges and give the whole thing a good sand. And it doesn't look half bad, even if I do say so myself. But I think I need to go a bit extra on this one. In part one, you would have saw I put a shout out on Facebook for a CNC machine and got talking to a top bloke by the name of Ollie. So here I am, back again at Ollie's workshop, carving the Triple Dog logo into Rocket's board. So if you're still with me, thanks for watching, I appreciate your support. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up button, and don't forget to subscribe either. It really is the best way to help me grow the channel. Now that the CNC machine has done its thing, I'm going to add some extra to my extra and fill what has been carved out with some blue tinted epoxy as a nod to the colour of Rocket's collar. Seeing as I've got the epoxy out, I figured I might as well do something to the top of the board as well. Using the CA glue and tape trick, I stuck some wood onto the board to act as a guide for me to route out a stripe along the top of the board. Once that was done, I filled that with epoxy too. Now, as much as I like the look of this wood, to make this board more rocket, I'm going to have to darken it. And I'm going to do this using a few methods. Weeks ago, I cleaned and stuffed some wire wool into a bottle filled with some white vinegar. Now, over time, there's been a chemical reaction in the bottle and it's darkened the vinegar, which I can now use to stain the wood. Now, I'm not overly sure what's gone on in the bottle, but it's science. If you know and you care to explain it to me, leave a comment down below. Having now completed a couple of coats of the vinegar, it's now on to the next stage. By masking up the board, I'm able to get some contrasting shades. Next up is black tea, which will help the wood go even darker. After several coats of the tea, I'm ebonising these parts of the board. Next up is some Osmo hard wax oil. Then I'll give the board one final sand using some 600 grit paper. And then finally finishing with some poly varnish. So that's all the finishing done, and I have to say I'm quite pleased with how that's turned out. So now onto the hardware. Unlike Bertie's board in part 1, I'm going to use a more traditional method of grip tape for this project. So rather than lose all the skin on my fingers, I use this screwdriver to stick all the edges down. So now the board's just ready for some wheels. Now, I'm no expert, but the trucks that I bought for Bertie's board in part 1 were pretty good and reasonably priced, so I've gone for those again. I'll leave a link in the description of where you can get them. As for the colour of the wheels, well, it had to be blue. And there we go, all finished, and I am well chuffed with this. I think Rocket's board looks pretty awesome, even if I do say so myself. I'm loving how this is finished with the epoxy and the hardwood, along with the CNC logo again. I think the whole thing looks pretty awesome. If I'm going to make any skateboards again in the future, it's definitely going to be this shape, because I just think it looks mustard. Of course, the only thing left to do now is to try it out. Now, if you've seen part 1, you know that I can't do this, but we're going to have to give it another go and try not to kill myself in the process. that's quite enough of that sodding about, because I really can't do this. However, I think I've created quite a cool board here, and at the very least, it's gonna look good on the wall. If you haven't seen part 1, there's a link in the description to meet Bertie the Basset. Keep your eyes open for part 3, where you'll meet the third of the Triple Dogs. Don't forget to hit that like button. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Let's stick around for the bloopers at the end, and I'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching. Yeah. You're f***ing useless. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and stick around for the bloosters. F***ing bloosters. The bloosters. That's a band. Ready? F***ing numpsy. Hang on, hang on.